Right, the Independent Electoral Commission says it will draw lessons from today's by-elections in preparation for the local government polls next year. There were various boycotts and protests at polling stations, and it seems that service delivery issues are on the minds of many. 107 seats were up for grabs in 95 wards in 55 municipalities. In the Western Cape, the stakes are high in Knysna and George, where the DA is fighting to retain control, and things could be tight in Potchefstroom, where the ANC has 34 seats, while the opposition has 33 seats combined. Well, to give us an overview of how things went today across the country, we're joined by IEC Chief Electoral Officer Mamabolo. Mr. Mamabolo, thank you for being with us. How did it go today? And we heard quite slow in parts. Just give us a sense of the turnout as well.
Francis, we're quite ecstatic at the manner in which the process unfolded today. A pertinent point of gratification is the fact that our anti-COVID measures are holding throughout the day, and many of the voters that visited voting stations have complied with the measures, which is very positive. Of course, we've had, out of the 400-odd voting stations across the country, only in 3 instances did we experience cases of disruption. The 2 in Naledi, Soweto, and 1 in Amahlati, Eastern Cape. Other than that, a very peaceful election day, logistics holding true, and people streaming through, although participation is uneven. Of course, that is influenced by whether the ward in question is going to change the complexion, the political complexion of council, hence the uneven levels of participation.
Yeah, I guess it depends if the parties have really been saying to their voters, this will make a huge difference. So we've heard of small instances like, let me find it, in Bushbuckridge in Mpumalanga. Apparently the EFF members there accusing the ANC of campaigning on the day, campaigning close to the actual centres themselves. But you always have these things, and presumably the IEC is in a position to deal with those sort of disputes on the day.
Those appear to be an omnipresent phenomenon in the electoral process, where everybody who is a participant tries to seek a maximum advantage for themselves. And that's the nature of electoral contestation. We do have the capacity to deal with it, and as those issues arise, we are able to resolve them. The important thing, though, is that those types of facilities, what we call temporary operating facilities, must not impede the access of voters to the voting station. That's really the overriding principle at play.
All right, and you say you're happy with the COVID-19 measures. So we've seen pictures of the electoral officers sort of dressed from top to bottom. How much extra cost does this add? How many layers sort of kind of to get into the election centre as well? Because we know that for by-elections you don't get the sort of turnout that you do in a local government election. So what happens when we have those huge lines next year?
Look, our attitude is that voting stations should never be points of transmission of the virus. They can be areas of contagion for the virus. Hence, the extraordinary measures we have implemented in providing appropriate personal protection equipment for staff. It is quite costly. On this occasion, in the 95 wards, something in the order of 3 million. But when we have to open 23,000 voting stations, the multiplier effect is quite phenomenal. And it is our hope that we'll be assisted to ensure that our staff during next year's election are sufficiently provided for in terms of personal protection equipment.
Yeah, you're talking about adding millions to the budget as well. All right, so voting stations are open until 9 o'clock tonight. Is that in most areas? Are you seeing any lines, long lines anywhere, or will that be a good time to close? And then when do the results start coming through?
Well, the issue of queues have got to be placed in a proper context. Because of the anti-COVID measures that are implemented, there may appear to be long queues when people come back from work and go to vote. But that is not a factor of any inefficient administration of the voting process. It is a direct consequence of the need to maintain social distancing in the queues. The general principle around closing is that voting stations will close at 9 as per law. However, in instances where voters may be within the boundaries of the voting station, they'll be accorded an opportunity to record their political choice.
All right, and we'll follow the close at 9 o'clock. This apparently is the largest sort of by-election day held. Why were there so many seats up for grabs this time?
Two factors at play. One, and perhaps the most important, is that by-elections had been postponed between March and September due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is therefore an accumulation of what would have ordinarily been cleared on a monthly basis, because we do have by-elections on a monthly basis. The second factor at play here is the two dissolved council in the Northern Cape, in Hokwane local municipality as well. Those councils in their entirety have been dissolved through the intervention of provincial government. So these by-elections are also an endeavor to reconstitute those councils.
Very quickly, we've run out of time, Mr. Mamabolo, but any interesting trends that you're looking out for? Some of the smaller parties sort of playing a part, could they get more seats than expected, or do you think the big parties here in some of those very contested wards, it seems to be a fight between the DA and the ANC? Anything interesting in sort of in terms of the political landscape?
I would rather we leave that question to political scientists. It's a matter of electoral speculation. On our part, we'll announce the results as soon as we have them tomorrow. In fact, we are planning, the Commission will be addressing the nation around 12 tomorrow to convey an overview of the results.
All right, and of course we'll take that. Thank you so much for your time tonight, the IEC Chief Electoral Officer, Mamabolo. Griselda?
All right, so coming up later in the show, we'll be chatting to economist Ndumiso Hadebe about the financial impact of COVID-19 ahead of the President's address later this evening. Let's take a recap once again of tonight's top stories.